The storm outside was merciless, hurling sheets of rain against the old wooden cabin that stood lonely in the heart of the Montana wilderness. Inside, a fire struggled to keep its flame alive, its faint glow casting trembling shadows across the room. John McAllister sat by the hearth, his face hard and weathered, his broad shoulders bent under the weight of exhaustion. In his arms, his infant son wailed, a fragile echo in a house far too quiet since his wife, Mary, passed away 6 months ago. Her laughter, once the music of this home, had faded into silence, leaving John to navigate fatherhood and heartbreak alone. The nights were the worst, long, cold, and heavy with memories he couldn't bury. He tried to soothe the baby, whispering rough lullabies in his deep voice, his calloused hands awkward but gentle. But tonight the child wouldn't stop crying. The wind howled like a ghost outside, the storm a mirror to the turmoil in John's chest. Then, amid the wind's roar, came a sound that didn't belong. Knock, knock, knock. 3 soft, hesitant taps at the door. John froze. No one came this far out at midnight, not in weather like this. Instinctively, he tightened his hold on the baby and reached for his lantern. "Who's there?" He called out, his voice firm but cautious. No answer, just the wind. He unlatched the door and opened it a crack. The lantern's glow spilled out into the rain, illuminating a woman standing there, drenched and trembling. She couldn't have been more than 25. Her hair plastered to her face, her dress clinging to her like second skin. "Please," she whispered, "I'm looking for work. I was told the McAllister ranch might need help." For a moment, John just stared, unsure if she was real or some trick of his weary mind. She looked fragile, desperate, but there was something in her eyes, strength, determination, that made him hesitate to turn her away. The baby's cry pierced the air again, and John sighed, stepping aside. "Get in before you freeze." The woman entered, dripping water onto the wooden floor. She removed her shawl and clutched it nervously in her hands. "I'm Clara," she said softly. "I can cook, clean, tend animals. Anything, sir." John studied her. She didn't look like the kind of woman used to rough work, yet there was no deceit in her tone, only exhaustion. "It's late, Clara," he muttered. "You picked a hell of a night to ask for a job." She smiled faintly, her lips trembling from the cold. "I had nowhere else to go." The baby whimpered again, and Clara's eyes softened. "May I?" she asked, motioning toward the child. John hesitated, but finally nodded, handing the baby over. To his surprise, the child quieted almost instantly in her arms. She hummed something, soft, soothing, a lullaby John hadn't heard in years. The fire flickered, and for the first time in months, the cabin felt alive. As she rocked the baby, John poured her a cup of hot coffee. "You can stay the night," he said finally. "We'll talk about work in the morning." Clara thanked him, her voice barely above a whisper. She sat by the fire, drying her clothes, while John watched her from the corner of his eye. Who was she really? Why would a woman travel through a storm alone, to a widower's ranch in the middle of nowhere? Questions swirled in his mind, but fatigue overtook suspicion. He laid the baby in the cradle and took his seat again, staring into the flames. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside something had shifted. A stranger had entered not just his home, but perhaps his heart's quiet. Loneliness. And as the firelight danced on Clara's face, John couldn't shake the feeling that this midnight visitor was carrying secrets of her own. Morning came slow and gray, with mist curling through the hills. John woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of gentle humming. For a moment he thought it was Mary. The dream was so vivid, but when he sat up, he saw Clara by the stove wearing one of his late wife's aprons. She turned and smiled shyly. "I hope you don't mind. The little one was awake early, so I thought I'd make breakfast." John rubbed his eyes, torn between gratitude and unease. It had been so long since anyone moved through this house with warmth and purpose. "You didn't have to," he said. "You're a guest." "Maybe," she replied softly, "but I'd rather earn my keep." He respected that. After breakfast, she worked without complaint, fetching water, feeding the horses, sweeping the porch. She was quiet, but not timid. There was a calm strength about her that made John's guarded heart stir. Over the days that followed, her presence became a balm. She laughed with the baby, fixed meals that filled the air with comfort, and listened when John spoke about the land, his wife, and his struggles. He found himself telling her things he hadn't told anyone, not even his brother. But one evening, while fixing the old barn roof, John found a small worn locket among Clara's belongings. He wasn't one to pry, but curiosity won. Inside the locket was a faded picture, a man's face, and an inscription. "Forever mine, Clara." When he confronted her that night, Clara's expression faltered. "You've been running from someone," John said quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. "From something," she corrected. "That man, he was my husband. He was cruel, dangerous. I left in the dead of night with nothing but this locket in my life. I came here because I heard the McAllister ranch was far, safe, and I needed to start over." John's anger faded as he listened. He saw the fear behind her calm, the pain hidden in her silence. "You're safe here," he said gently. "No one's going to hurt you." That night, as the rain returned and thunder rolled over the plains, Clara stood by the fire holding the baby. John watched her, realizing that life had given him a second chance, not to replace what was lost, but to begin anew. Weeks passed and laughter slowly returned to the ranch. Neighbors whispered about the widowed rancher and the mysterious woman. But John didn't care. One night, as they stood outside under a sky full of stars, Clara turned to him. "You've given me shelter," she said. "But more than that, you gave me hope again." John smiled faintly. "You did the same for me." The baby stirred between them, reaching out, and their hands brushed together. In that simple touch, the loneliness of two broken souls melted away. The ranch, once silent and grieving, now echoed with life again. A mother's song, a baby's laughter, a man's steady voice calling home. As the fire crackled behind them, John whispered, "Maybe some doors are meant to open, even at midnight." And as the camera fades out on their warm, glowing cabin amidst the cold night, the narrator's voice closes gently. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful tales of love, faith, and redemption. Your support helps us bring more stories to life. Hit that bell icon and stay with us on this journey.